Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the April 14th, 2026 meeting for the O'Fallon, Missouri Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. Can I have a call to order, please?
Mr. Elder.
Here.
Ms. Hawbaker.
Here.
Mr. Hester.
Present.
Mr. Kester.
Present.
Mr. Tremmel.
Here.
Ms. Williams is excused. Ms. Wilson.
Here.
And Councilmember Roth is absent.
Thank you. Apologize for the nomenclature there. And you gave me a look like, yeah, I didn't even realize it, so I apologize. All right, so moving on. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Jim, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, everybody, I assume, has had an opportunity to review the agenda for tonight's meeting. It was sent out to you in advance. Are there any questions, comments, corrections, additions? Hearing none, can I have a approval?
Wilson.
Can I have a second?
Elder.
Elder, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the agenda for tonight's meeting is officially on the record. Next item up is approval of the previous month's meeting minutes. And it looks like we have two of them on here. Did we not approve the February minutes from?
No quorum list.
Oh, because we had, okay. Okay, well then we've got 2 months worth of meeting minutes to approve. And again, all this information should have been sent in advance for review. So are there any comments, questions, corrections, or additions to those? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve?
Wilson.
Wilson, have a second?
Elder.
Elder, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. The February 2026 and March 2026 meeting minutes are approved. Do we have meeting minutes from March if it wasn't a quorum? Okay. Okay. That's right, I remember. Okay. Next up, citizen comments. Do we have any comments this evening from our great citizens of O'Fallon? All right, hearing none, we will move on to the division reports, and as always, we'll start with the Parks report.
Thank you, Scott. Just a couple things I want to touch on. The full report is in the agenda item. But seasonal staff hiring this year has gone really well. We have 7 out of 10, and all of our weekend seasonal staff hired right now. So we are still looking for a couple more. So if you're interested in watching, please go to the city's website. Also, our construction team completed the synthetic playground safety surface at Carshill Field. So if you've been out there, the playground out there, we had the old rubberized soft tile, they call it, but we just got done installing the synthetic turf out there. It's so that's the first one that we've done in-house. So moving forward, that's something that we'll probably move towards, and our construction team now is trained on doing that. So.
What park was that, Bill?
At Carshill Field.
The playground there.
Oh, okay.
The ballpark.
Also, the construction team they finished pouring some additional concrete at Ozzie Smith. If you realize that at Heritage and Freedom Fest, the staging area, we increased that about 4 feet, and then also the seating area around the concession stand. Every year our sponsors and things like that are located in that area, we typically put down these plastic mats over time, rain, mud, things like that. So while the construction was going on out there, we felt like this was a good time to go ahead and complete that off. So all that concrete is done. Also, the contractor finished installing all of the roofs in Westhoff Park. This is back from the 2024 hail storm that we had. So they're moving them right along. They have some other buildings that they've hit throughout the city. I believe Ozzie is next to be done. And both Brendan's and the splash pad and at the O'Day Park, the water feature is now currently open, so it's starting to get warmer out there. And the last thing I wanted to just touch on was the synthetic turf at Ozzy. I know that was a project that we were very proud of. So I'm hoping Daniel was able to fix my PowerPoint because I know you guys like pictures. So I'm going to finish up at the dais or at the podium there and show you guys some pictures. So
Awesome.
So one of the things that with this project going on, we started in October. They actually broke ground in November, and if you remember back in November, I actually presented and showed you some pictures and some videos of that. Since then, our communication team actually went out and took some additional drone footage out there. Unfortunately, the drone, I have pictures and still images, but the videos did not load. So, but overall, the project is actually has been amazing. So, as you can see, this is one of the photos that we took back in November of last year when we started. That's actually Diamond B that they started on, and then Diamond A. So if you remember, Diamond A and B are fully synthetic fields. C, D, E, F, and G are infield only. So this is where we were in early February. As you can see, they've got everything on A and B, which is the two areas at the top. And then at the bottom, you see where they're actually starting to lay the turf on the infield of C and D. So this was the video that I had, but each one of these rolls that are actually laid out, the staff and the employees there are actually pulling this carpet by hand, kind of like they do in your house. They stretch it with these basically these come-alongs. So if you can imagine the magnitude of how many fields you have in all of the turf. That was the blank screen. So here's the threeplex on C or E, F, and G. So the turf is completely done and installed. They've done all the grading work. You can still see, and actually in the bottom right corner there, you can actually see the concrete that we expanded here. And then you'll see another photo where we started expanding some of the concrete in that area. But these three fields were getting close. This was probably around mid-March. So here's A, B, C, and D. C and D is now finished. So they finished all of the infield fields first. The two larger fields, obviously, a lot more carpet, a lot more rock, a lot more time put into it. So as you can see, Diamond A there is starting to come together. I think we actually met with Parks and the recreation staff out there. I believe it was around March 19th, somewhere around there. It was around 3 or 4 weeks before opening, and I was getting a little scared. But they assured me that they didn't see any issues and they were going to get it done, with the exception of Diamond B. Diamond B, for some reason, stayed really wet, but they were going to try to get it done. So now you see the threeplex now. All the sod is in, the concrete's done, all of the irrigation has been moved. Staff worked extremely hard moving all of the irrigation that separates the field and the turf now. So here is the fourplex now. And as you can see, Diamond B, the white sandbags out there are holding down the field while they're actually top dressing the field with the sand and the pellets that go into it. Oh, how do I back up? That one actually started to play. Oh, we got one. So as you can see, so once they lay all the carpet out, they groom it, then they start putting in the sand for the base, and then they put in the pellets.
What's that truck doing? Is that spraying the sand? Or?
Yeah, so this truck right here is actually or this gator is that this is a top dresser. So they loaded this thing down with sand. It's a silica sand. It's not like just regular sand. It's very clean. But they top dressed the entire field with this sand. And then they have a grooming machine that constantly grooms it back and forth, working that sand down in there. And what it does, it makes the fibers actually stand straight up. And then once they get done with all the sand, they will actually come back and then put in all the black pellets. And if you guys had kids that played high school ball and baseball and football, they come home and your car's full of those black pellets. That's what they're going to be bringing home. So that's our gift to you guys. So you get to take this.
And they're done that.
Yes. So here's the finished product. As you can see, this one's been groomed. This field is completely done. New fence. Yeah, so
That's A?
this is Diamond A.
Yeah.
So with that, this is Diamond B. So if you can see in this top, right in the center, let me back up, I'm sorry. Right back here, these are 2-ton sacks. Each one of those sacks has pellets and stuff that has to go into the field. They say it takes about anywhere between 7 and 10 days just to put the filling in there, the fill. So it's a lot of work that went into it. But this is Diamond B. So this is the field that they didn't think they would get ready. We believe it's going to be ready for this weekend's tournament. And with that, like I said, I would answer any questions that you guys may have. But we did open up the fields yesterday. We had our first softball games out there yesterday. We got games out there today.
Which one's the one by on T.R. Hughes?
This is Diamond B.
The one that I see all the time.
That's this one here. This is
Okay.
Diamond B.
And what was all in the white bags that they had sitting there?
So half the bags have the sand in it, the silica sand, and then the other bags has the black rubber pellets.
Oh, okay, so that's what they put down. Okay, because I kept seeing them bags. I'm going, why are them sitting there?
Yeah, so we did get a little bit of rain towards the end of the project, and the contractor asked if the city would be open to shutting down a lane for about 2 days so they can get all this material in here. Obviously, we worked it out with the city and stuff and made it happen. And so now everything is off the ground, the road's back open, and the contractor can continue to stay.
It looks nice.
So yeah, we were extremely, extremely impressed with it. So
If you break out the cost, what does one full field like A or B cost? Just for the field, get all that done?
I'd have to go back and look, but don't quote me on this, but a full synthetic field for this was around 700,000, 800,000 for those.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was more than that. Okay. When will these be accessible by us so we could just go out and take a look around, walk around, take?
Anytime, the fields are open.
Oh, it's still open?
Yeah, they're there, the fields are open. You're more than welcome to go up and walk around and take a look. Now that, around the surrounds that you will see, that was kind of the lower priorities that we wanted them to concentrate on. So we still have some work to do on the outside, some grading and some seeding and getting some grass in and sodding. But that was our main concern, was to get the fields up and playable. So obviously we can start recouping some revenue. So
I'm just curious, how long do these usually last before you have to start doing a lot of maintenance and stuff? Just curious.
well, ever since I've been involved with the turf, a lot of people say 10 years. Then after 10 years, you got to tear them up, and then it's going to cost the city another $1 million or something like that. But we put in CarShield Fields turf. It's coming up on 10 years now. If you walk that field now, it's practically brand new.
It's in good shape.
Yes, it comes down to maintenance of the field, how you take care of the field, making sure that people don't wear metal spikes and you having chewing gum. But if you also, it's true, but when kids and they're spitting sunflower seeds and stuff, it's maintenance to pick all that stuff up. But if you notice, all of our fields, that what we've done is that around, obviously, home plate, the batter's boxes, they wear the most. They wear the fastest. Kids like to dig in. But our batter's boxes, the white squares down here, and where the catcher sits, those are all Velcro. So when they get bad, we rip them up and put a new one down, and we have a stockpile of them. So the field still looks new. So in 10, 12, 15 years, if the base path starts to wear, We're just replacing the brown. That's why it's different colors. So you won't see a difference when you start, you know how it is. You should replace siding on your house in 10 years, even though it's the same colors, the sun fades it and things like that. The turf will fade too with, over time. But if I replace just the brown, the infield, the cost isn't extremely as high as people think.
Velcro idea is really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat, so.
Yeah, the outfield ought to last 12, 15, maybe even more.
Like I said, if you
Taken care of.
this is the same company that installed the turf out at Carshill Field, and that field's coming up on 10, maybe 11 years now. And like I said, it's like new.
Right. The mounds are all portable, I assume?
All portable mounds. We have 3 different size mounds. We have 4 different length base paths. I think we have 60, 65, 70, and 80s. So we have, it's set up for a softball. We have softball mats. We have baseball. We have different mounds. We have everything. So we have temporary fencing. So if smaller kids are playing, so now we have temporary fencing. So we wanted to maximize what we can offer the people. So
I'm just curious, the tournaments that are coming, are these external groups or are we internally, these are all City of O'Fallon
I
sponsored?
think they're a mixture of both. Craig may be able to answer a little bit. He takes a lot of the reservations.
There's about 3 different major tournament,
Vendors, if you will.
yeah, that come in and do this.
Operators.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
There's a couple smaller ones, but there's 3 major ones.
So are all the tournaments, and they're all external operators that come in and do those? or-
Yes, we are not running any of them ourselves, yeah.
Yeah.
And really, they're the ones we've been working with for the past
years.
2 or 3 years, yeah.
It's great, guys. The city ought to be commended for pushing this forward. I mean, I know it's an investment, but it is, it's got pretty significant value. And, to avoid all those rainouts and the hassle of refunds and, it's just, it's a really great asset.
Bill, who's going to maintain these?
Our current staff, park staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like they do Car Shield.
We don't take care of Card Shield. Card Shield is maintained by the Hooch organization. Everything at Ozzie and Westoff will still remain staffing. There was no increase in staffing on any of this, so.
Are you planning on putting this turf in Westoff?
Well, it really depends on how revenue comes in. If it does very well, yeah, but Westoff Park is a whole different bird. Westoff Park is, it's more than just turfing fields there. It needs a facelift altogether, roadways, lights, everything. So it's a bigger project than just updating the fields itself. So, but yeah, if you know a very wealthy person, then let us know.
And to think all I wanted was a loud light pole fixed a few years ago.
Well, those have been taken care of too last year. Everything is LED lighting. So I will bring back to you, the last thing I'll close with is that we do have some before and after. So we did take photos from the drone, if you remember, before we did the LED lighting at night. And then it shows all of the bleeding of the lights. And then we have photos with the new LED lighting and the old turf. So as soon as they finish up everything here, we'll have communications come out one evening again, and they'll do everything under the lights. And it's amazing to see. Those are the calls we get now is it's too dark and I can't see. And because of the bleeding of the lights, everybody used to have that light in their backyard, and now it's dark.
So what's the plan for those videos on the O'Fallon website?
What's that? I'm sorry.
Will you be putting those videos on the O'Fallon website?
Yeah, we definitely could. We can reach out to our communication teams and start to put some of those videos up there,
It
some
sounds like
before and
you
after.
really ought to play this up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea.
The city should be very proud of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great job. Long time coming.
Yep, absolutely.
Is there anything else for?
That is all.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Moving on, next item is a recreation report. Craig?
Thanks, Scott. First of all, I'd like to welcome John tonight for his first meeting with Parks and Recreation Board. This is not the first meeting he's been at, though, for the city. Just a couple things I want to touch base on. We had 106 birthday parties in the first quarter in 2026. Last year, we had 308 all year long, so we're in a pretty good pace to pass that number. The leisure pool is scheduled to get repainted here soon, so that's a major project up at Alligators Creek. We also had, as a CIP, an ADA lift that we're adding up there. We had 121 people enrolled in the department's annual underwater egg hunt that was on March 27th. The aquatics team is reintroducing river walking up at Alligators Creek this year. They did it a little bit differently. They had people register, so we knew we had enough people to have the revenue cover the expenses of the lifeguards for the water walking in the lazy river. And we reached that, so we're going to move forward with that program. And then the Parks Passport that we do each year, that's at the printers. They're going to pick that up here soon, so we'll start handing that out as well. And then just a couple invites. You'll get an official invite, but I wanted to mention that on April 28th, we'll do the ribbon cutting for the Ozzie Smith Artificial Turf Fields. It's from 5:30 to 7:30. It sounds like it's probably going to be hosted right there at the dugouts of C and D, leading up to the fourplex concession stand.
What's the date of that again?
April 28th, 5:30 to 7:30.
Okay.
We got some activities going on, but an exciting part is that Ozzie Smith will be there.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So he won't be doing any autographs, but he'll be there for pictures. You can do a selfie with Ozzie Smith. Or you can show him how you do your backflip. And then one other thing, I sent this out to Parks and Recreation Board members on June 25th. We're going to get a proclamation at the council meeting that night at 7:30. July is Parks and Recreation Month. So that, and it being America 250, we definitely want to celebrate Parks and Recreation for the month of July. So June 25th at the council meeting at 7:30. Proclamations are usually the first part of the meeting. So we want to make sure we'll have some staff there. We hope you guys can join us. We want to kind of kick off the July Parks and Recreation Month. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Craig. Any comments or questions for Craig? Okay. Moving on, tourism and festivals report.
Food Truck Frenzy, May 29th at Sports Park from 5:30 to 8 p.m. It'll be a Route 66 theme, so we'll have some classic cars and plenty of food to eat. Heritage and Freedom Fest parade applications are now open. We have Whiskers and Wags coming up on May 2nd. That's at Civic Park from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. As always, we have a demonstration from the O'Fallon Police Department canines. And then we'll also have the Agility and Frisbee show by the Ninja Canines. And we'll have an appearance of Paw Patrol characters, Chase and Sky. They'll be there for the kids and to take photos with. We had 8 adoption agencies that accepted this year. And we're currently doing a supply drive that kind of culminates with that event. It's running now through April 30th at Renaud Center and also here at City Hall. Opening night of Jammin' is May 26th. They'll have the portholes that night. There's a list. I'm not going to go through them all, but they've got quite a lineup for this year. Heritage and Freedom Fest country we're still waiting some paperwork. We've kind of identified our country artist, but we can't divulge that yet. We do have a Lego artist. And if you recall, we had a cancellation for our NASCAR event at HFF last year because they had a car accident on the way to HFF. Well, we're going to try it again this year. So NASCAR Take 2 will be there for this year. We'll have a birthday cake for America's birthday. Some new entertainment on the alley. Photo op pieces are being built. Wait a minute, let me try that again. New entertainment alley photo op pieces are being built. Vendor applications are open now. And then something Jennifer's been working on, I think it's a great idea. We're just trying to make sure we can get it to where we like it. She's working on some inclusion pieces for HFF. One of the notably are the quiet zones in certain areas and certain nights that will be able to accommodate people with disabilities. And that's all I have.
What day did you say the canine, what'd you call it? Is it?
Whiskers and Wax?
Yeah, what day is that event
May
again?
2nd.
Second. Okay, any questions or comments on the tourism and festivals report? That was a big report. Hard to believe it's April. It's coming quickly. Okay, if nothing more, we're going to move on. The next item is old business. Does not look like we have anything on the agenda tonight for old business, so we're going to move right on to new business. We have 2 agenda items. First one being the SBR Racing at the Fort Zumwalt Park.
All right, so for those of you that don't know, one of my responsibilities with the Recreation Department is handling our special event permits. So those primarily come in through our reservations email, and they range anywhere from something small, like somebody has a pavilion rented and they want to add a bounce house or a petting zoo or a food truck, something like that, all the way up to the Rail District Festival that we've had the last couple of years. That's also covered under a special event permit. So anything that goes beyond just a typical facility or pavilion rental would have a permit attached to that. And just a little more about the process. So there are fees based on residency status, on expected attendance, expected impact on the park, that vary on what deposit and amount they would owe. And then obviously additional charges that could apply for electricity or trash cans or tables, or, a very large event like that Rail District Festival, they, work with our park staff to have additional maintenance, workers present, and we'll bill them for that. So I mentioned this to you because a few weeks back we had got a request for a little bit larger event than just like a bounce house or something like that. So SBR Racing is a bicycle race organization that is looking to host a race at Fort Zumwalt Park on Saturday, July 11th from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. They initially expect roughly 40 to 50 participants, plus an unspecified number of spectators, and also their course marshals or race staff would be on site. They do not anticipate needing cones, barricades, signage, anything else that we offer. But if we are to go forward with this proposal, we will obviously build them at that accordingly. A little background about who's making the request. So it's the Route 66 Shakedown Series, put on or presented by SBR Bikes and Brews. They actually have a storefront at the district in Chesterfield. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. So that opened in spring of 2024 and replaced a Clayton Road location they previously had that was known as Swim Bike Run, which is where the SBR racing comes from. And their new storefront offers bicycle sales and service, but also has a cafe inside that has a small selection of food and beverages available. And with that, their Shakedown series began last year. They hosted 4 different races at Route 66 State Park. I apologize, the font's a little small on this slide. But they hosted 4 races at Route 66 State Park in Eureka last year. They're looking to expand that to 6 races this year, and they've already confirmed that in addition to the 4 in Eureka, 1 will be at Carondelet Park in St. Louis, and then they're hoping that Fort Zumwalt Park can be that other location to be their 6th spot as part of this series. SBR Racing hosts other series aside from the Route 66 Shakedown in cities like St. Charles, Defiance, Chesterfield, Creve Coeur, and Valley Park. Not quite as large. There's only 1 or 2 events for most of those. And then they also partner with like Big Shark. Bike Shop is also out in Chesterfield. I believe they have another location as well, but they're a little more established, and they do some events in the St. Louis area. But they partner with some other bike racing organizations that do things as far as Marthasville or Herman, Missouri. So as you can see on the right there, that's kind of what their framework looked like, or their day of festivities looked like for their 4 events last year. Had about 5 or 6 different divisions based on skill level, gender, things like that. And then there's cash payouts for people who make the podium for those events. I just want to read off quickly here. This is a testimonial I got from the superintendent of Route 66 State Park. So he works for Missouri Department of Natural Resources. With this being a new organization we haven't worked with before, just wanted to check in with someone who worked with them last year. And his comment was they have been good to work with. In fact, we have an event this Saturday with them. This was a few weeks ago I reached out, so that already has happened at this point. That was in late March. Prior to this weekend's event, they had communicated with us some possible changes to the event, and we were unable to accommodate. I only bring that up because it illustrates that they communicate well and are willing to follow requested guidelines with no complaints, no issues, and well organized. So that is pretty much all I have on background from them. Any comments, questions that come to mind?
Yeah, I do. Did they do this before, or was that a different people that did the bicycle through Fort Zumwalt Park?
To my knowledge, we've never worked with SBR Racing.
Okay, so it was a different group that wanted to do it?
Yeah, since I've been with the city, the only like tournament or race we've had at Fort Zumwalt Park is like the Smokin' Aces disc golf tournament. I do believe there has been a bike race there. It's probably been a little while. Does that sound correct?
We did have something, I don't know if it was.
A couple years ago or something.
It's been a while. It's been probably 7 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I've been familiar with them for almost 20 years, I guess, not for myself, but I have 2 family members that are triathletes, and it was a very helpful organization for triathletes, and with the races and connecting the racers together and that. So they've been around for quite a while.
Nice. All right, well,
I have 2 questions, if I could.
go ahead.
I mean, roughly how many O'Fallon residents or other people use Fort Zumwalt Park on the typical Saturday between 7 a.m. and 2 p.m.? How many people are going to be displaced from using the park?
That's a great question. I don't know if Craig or Bill would have that number, or know a way we could get that to you here.
It leads to my second question is who's going to control that closed road going into it starting at 6 or 7 a.m.? How's that going to be handled?
Yeah, so we would definitely, advertise the closure in advance on our social media pages and put signage up in advance, at the entrance to the park, letting people that frequent that location know a couple weeks ahead, hey, this is coming up. The park's not going to be open from these hours on that date. As far as the typical number of visitors that park sees per day, I unfortunately don't have that information on hand, but that's certainly something to think about.
Is there a revenue stream generated from?
Yeah, so I can back up a few
I
slides
apologize.
here.
Yeah, I didn't
So
see
this
it
would be
quick.
considered a park-wide event, and since the organizers aren't a resident or a nonprofit, they would pay the $1,350 full-day rental fee, plus a $500 refundable deposit, less any damages if anything like that were to occur. And then if they did decide later on that they needed signage or cones or anything like that that we provide ourselves, then there would be, the billable items there on the right. But $1,350 would be that baseline amount they would pay for the day.
Now, what happens if the park's already booked that day with people in there with, graduation parties and stuff?
Yeah, so we've just in case preemptively, we've blocked off the Fort Zumwalt Park Pavilion from being rented, pending this event. The other group besides just the general public that would be impacted is the St. Charles County Model Railroad Club. I believe, Keith, you mentioned they host open houses on Saturday. It's kind of their day that they're open to the public. So we would obviously need to notify those individuals as well that are members there, so that they could be aware that, potentially move to the afternoon that day or explore a different day that week to host their normal activities.
Is this something that people come watch, or they just race and nobody's there?
Yeah, so what they've stated is that it's primarily just some family members of the racers and maybe some friends of the organizers. I can, before we finalize everything, certainly get, if they had to put a number on it, how many spectators you
Sure,
think
it's
it would
open to the
be.
public, right?
It is open,
Right.
but 40 to 50 contestants or riders, and then probably 5 to 10 race staff, plus roughly another 20 or 30 people, I would think. Could be more, but we can certainly gain some clarification on that, on like what, what's the spectator count look like on their other events.
If it's like a typical event, you'll have a spouse there, and you'll typically, if they have kids, have 2 or 3 kids there, 1, 2 or 3 kids there.
Yeah.
So
That's what those events are usually like.
you'll have more people there than you think, I bet. There's 40, participants.
Have they looked into parking and so forth? I mean, they've obviously been to the park and seen
Yeah.
it's a 1 mile loop around, right? So that,
Right.
I've always thought of it as kind of a racetrack event area myself, but for bicycles, it'd be perfect.
Yeah, so that was kind of the first question that came up on our end was, we also, in November, we typically every year host like a Jingle Bell Run. I want to say it's Fort Zumwalt North Middle School. Their orchestra group does that. And they work with the nearby church to secure overflow parking. So that was kind of immediately popped into my mind to, verify they don't expect to need that. And if they do, then that would be, we would need written approval from whatever overflow lot they're going to use. And then we'd also need to talk through kind of how they're safely going to get people across to the park. So we'll certainly ask the question again, but they did not mention that as being an anticipated need.
Just curious on these types of events when we rent out the facilities, insurance, do the renters have to provide their own? I mean, if you're coming to the park pavilion, probably not, right? But, and I'm assuming the city's got, liability coverage, but on an event like this where, it's very possible there's something happens
I
to,
think they have to come up with.
Yeah, so I should have mentioned that. I apologize during kind of when I was going through everything, but that is really the critical component of the special event permit. Obviously, especially for a larger event, it can serve as an alternative revenue source for the city. But, especially with the lower fees, somebody that's already rented a pavilion, really the purpose of having the permit, having them go through the process is to verify that whatever vendor they're using, or in this case, if it's the organization itself that's hosting the tournament, has insurance, and that we don't just require like proof of coverage. They actually have to name us
Yeah,
as
your na-
certificate
your
holder,
name,
an
yeah,
additional
right,
insured.
right, additional insured.
The amounts that they need vary based on what the service the vendor's providing. So there's different tiers based on that. An organization hosting a tournament would be at our top tier, especially if they're taking over the whole park. So yeah, that the insurance would certainly be, key item number one. Okay. And it also includes a waiver of subrogation so that, just really covers us there.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Kind of a cool event, so.
Yeah, so if you'll see here on this slide, the park-wide event does require approval by the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. So I believe we would just need a motion and then a second, and then we would go from there.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the SBR racing in Fort Zumwalt Park on, what was the date?
Saturday, July 11th.
Saturday, July 11th, and it will be for a park-wide event. Although we heard it might not take the whole day, it's an entire day rental.
Yeah, so let me just quickly go to this slide
It's probably
here.
where it needs to be on the motion.
Yep, sorry. It won't take the whole day. It'll be just in the morning. They'll be done by 2 o'clock.
Okay,
So it'll be open back up to the public by 2.
Correct.
okay. So let me try to restate that. Can I have a motion to approve the use of Fort Zumwalt Park on the date noted by SBR Racing for a full-day rental, although a stated use of the park will likely be available after 2 p.m. To have a motion for approval.
Elder?
Do I have a second?
Wilson.
Wilson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, it's approved.
All right.
Okay, fantastic. One other item for new business. We've got a programming presentation tonight by Danielle.
I'm not quite as tall as John, so I gotta bring it down. Sorry, just trying to put it in presentation mode for you. Okay, so for those of you who have not met me, my name is Danielle Rex. I am the Recreation Superintendent, and I am here to talk to you about program planning tonight. An interesting fact about myself is I have worked for the city since 2007, and I started as a part-time employee working within our programming. I've also volunteered. So programming is really extremely important. It's a big aspect of what we do in the recreation department, and there's a lot that goes in on the front side that you guys don't necessarily see, so I wanted to talk about that. But I've had a lot of experience in almost every aspect of this, so I'm excited to share that information with you guys today. So what we are going to cover, we're going to talk about the types of programs. We're going to talk about how we create our programs, what that budget looks like, and then I'm going to wrap that up in a short and sweet presentation with a program evaluation and how we go about evaluating that program. So the different types of programs that we offer, and I gave you guys a form and you're probably like, what is this? I'm gonna explain that. The print is really small on the screen, so I wanted to provide you a sheet. So if you're like, what is this? I'll explain. So the different types of programs that we have, we can essentially categorize those into 5 different sections. So community programs are those programs that benefit the community. It's our programs like Jammin', Snaps with Santa, our underwater egg hunt that Craig was just mentioning that we had. The next type is our community individual, and those are programs that benefit mainly the community, but also individuals. To give you an example of those, that would be like our swim team or our summer camp programs. The third one is our individual community, and those benefit mainly individuals, but also the community, promoting individual physical and mental well-being, so like our swim lessons and athletic programs. Fourth is our mostly individual, and those will typically benefit a specific group. So that's going to be like our silver sneakers classes, pickleball group lessons, and I would categorize our birthday parties and rentals into this category as well. And then that final category is going to be our highly individual, and those are going to be our programs that are going to have high profit potential, and those are going to be things like our private lessons and our personal training. This slide's going to be kind of important. It's just a little bit of background information. It's going to be come into perspective in a little bit. So On the next slide, so where do we go about creating programs? There's a couple of ways we can go about doing this. One of the biggest ways for gathering ideas is brainstorming sessions. We just had one. Craig and one of our managers, Dalton, hosted a brainstorm session, and we gave the staff Post-it notes, and we just had them go wild. Craig's favorite is underwater basket weaving, so I always like to mention that one. That one always gets thrown out on the board. But the whole purpose of that is we really want them to think outside the box and think of as many crazy things as they can. And really, we end up narrowing it down. Sadly, we cannot do underwater basket weaving. I'm so sorry, Craig. But it's an idea we throw out. Then we throw all of those up onto a board, and we start finding common things between all of them. And that's really helpful because we're starting to create connections to see just within our staff what everybody's getting feedback on and what they're liking. From there, we can start to narrow down what potential ideas we can do. With that. Some of the other ways we besides brainstorming sessions, is we research trends. So for example, like the Taylor Swift, that was really popular last year and the year before, right? So we leveraged off of that and did a Taylor Swift dance party. We'll look at what other cities offer as another opportunity, and then we go to conference with Missouri Park and Recreation Association, and then also the national organization, National Recreation Parks Association. Those are also really good resources for us to get data, connect with individuals that also do what we do, just so we can kind of generate feedback and see what's working, what's popular, what's not. I just recently went to director school a couple of weeks ago, and I was learning about pickleball in urban areas. They're actually creating paddles and balls that are quieter for those areas that are close to apartment complexes. So we learn a lot of really cool things, and we can bring those back to our community and make those work. So after all of that, we really have to isolate possible options. Obviously, underwater basket weaving is not going to be an option for us, right? Like, we don't have scuba gear. The deepest part of our pool is about 3.5, 4 feet, so that's not going to work, sorry. And so we start looking at things like the space, the time frames that we have. Is this something that we think is potentially going to be something that's liked? I forgot to mention that too. We also do surveys, and we reach out to the community. One of the biggest things I found helpful is especially going and doing Parks and Rec booths like GMN. For those of you who have kind of been a part of GMN, we get to connect with the community a lot, and that's pretty awesome. So I forgot to mention that one. But we take all those ideas and we kind of isolate down what is possible. And from there, we can start working on developing a program. What is something that we think is going to work really well, and then we can start building out that program. So that's where that sheet in front of you, it's over on the right-hand side of the screen, but it's a little blurry, so I wanted to give you a copy. But this is a resource that we give to our staff that basically helps them map out the program. They can take a look at this, and it really helps drive their brain about what things they need to start thinking about or considering when they're developing a program. So that's where we get into my favorite part, which is developing the program fee. Anybody who knows me knows I love budget. It's one of my favorite things to do. So this part always makes me geek out. Fun fact, this course fee calculator was given to me when I first started as a full-timer in the department by Craig. So I will not take ownership of the course fee calculator, but I did tweak it, so I'll take credit for that. I want to preface this by saying this is a tool. This is not the end-all be-all, and that'll kind of become more transparent as I go through and have a talk more about it. But this is just one of the resources we provide them to help them get to that number they need to get to. So you'll see, I'm going to point out a couple of things. There's 2 blue arrows up at the top. Those are pointing out sections where our staff can enter information. So you'll see that Ren, our aquatic specialist, went through and she was trying to plan out the underwater egg hunt time. It has them break down some data and even has them put in what they think. If they don't know a current fee, they can put, this is what I think I should try to charge. And if they have no idea, they can just guess. Again, this is a tool. This is a starting place. Then they can enter some of their direct costs. So what's the instructor going to cost and what are those materials going to cost? Anything you see in yellow, those are fixed numbers, so they don't touch that part of the spreadsheet. Those are built in for them. And then down at the bottom, you'll see a red arrow, and that's desired cost recovery. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this on the next slide, but the biggest thing to note about that is that's a number that they can change. It's not fixed, it's not in yellow. They can adjust that based off of the program and what they think that desired cost recovery rate needs to be. I'll talk a little bit about how we get to that. But the bread and butter of this whole slide is that gold star to the right, and it's really those two cells, the second or from the top, so the price per person at 100% cost recovery, and then the price per person at desired % cost recovery. So that price per person at 100% cost recovery, that's break even. So if Ren were to run this program tomorrow to completely break even, she would have to charge $16.48. She has entered a cost recovery total of 115%. So then it calculates out for her if she were to reach that percent cost recovery she's looking for, she would have to charge at least $18.95. So you can see she's aiming for $20. She's well within that range. So this kind of leads into the next part where we're considering determining cost recovery percentages. Again, we've played in the course calculator. We've kind of seen what options we have, and a lot of times they'll start there. They'll move on to get some more research and data, and then they'll end back at that cost recovery calculator. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? It's kind of a process of ebb and flow. But some of the things that we try to teach them to consider for those cost recovery percentages are historical data. Obviously, with new programs, this one's not one that's going to be helpful, but this is extremely helpful for those programs that we've been running for a minimum of 3 to 5 years. We can get some good data and see what those trends are off of them. The second biggest tool is market value, and that is very important. When we look at camp, for example, if Amy, our recreation specialist for youth activities, let's say she charged $200 for camp, but all the areas around the camp were charging $100. We're not hitting the market value. So she would need to go back and readjust to make sure that she's kind of meeting what everybody else is meeting. And if she's going back to that spreadsheet, if she's really trying to create more of a desired cost recovery, then she would need to look at her expenses, let's say, if that market value is not meeting what she needed to meet. The third thing goes back to all those lovely examples I gave you at the beginning. And this, I think, is a really cool tool to utilize. And it just kind of, you'll see community is down at the bottom of the pyramid, and all the way up at the top is highly individual. And those were those program types that I mentioned at the very beginning. And you'll notice as you move up the pyramid, you're creating more profit. There's more cost recovery that's occurring. Now, what I will say about our staff and how we train them, we very rarely run things at cost. We usually have some percentage of cost recovery, and that's because we teach them about the indirect expenses that we have within our department and making sure that we cover things like the lights in the building and all of the fun things that we have to pay for. You'll see some things like our Jam and Concert series. That's obviously a community event. We don't make that back. So there are some things that kind of fall in those categories, but for the most part, if it's not tourism and festivals and it's on the recreation side, there's some kind of cost recovery percentage that they're gaining off of that. So that really leads to some really awesome events, right? And that's only the beginning of what they're doing. They spend a lot of time, you can see on the back end, really trying to figure out how to make that program work, hit the target values that we're asking them to hit. And we ask them to take ownership and pride over their programs. So we really want them to go through that whole process so they understand the importance of it. So that kind of leads me to the last point I wanted to mention, and that's evaluating our programs. We evaluate our programs consistently. That never stops for us. You could say the programs could fall into essentially 4 categories. A new or young program, that's what we would consider, for example, our baseball program that we just started that is currently playing out at Ozzie Smith Sports Complex, which I'm very excited about. That's a new program. It's new for us. It's just starting off. We're going to watch it. We're going to pay attention to program trends. We're really going to dive into those surveys and make sure that we're getting the feedback that we want to get. And then we have our mature programs. Those are our programs that are really stable. For example, day camp, swim lessons. Those programs are doing really well. We're kind of watching the trends, making sure that they're not dipping. That doesn't mean we're not making adjustments. We should be consistently evaluating those programs. So there are adjustments that are going to be made. And then the next category would be declining programs. Those are our programs that we're starting to see a decline in attendance or revenue. And this is where we really have to start evaluating, is it an us issue? Is it, for example, like soccer, we saw a decline. Now we're kind of seeing a little bit of a plateau. So we're still watching it really closely, but it's kind of leveled off. But competitive soccer became really big. And so that's when we kind of saw that dip in recreational soccer. So right now we're watching it, but that doesn't mean we're not exploring other ideas, because by the time we get to the next stage, which is program end of life, we want to be prepared for what we're going to slot into that spot. We want to continue to offer recreational opportunities as we go along. So that last spot is our program end of life, and those could be fad programs. So like the Taylor Swift dance party I mentioned earlier, that one was a big deal because the Taylor Swift Eras Tour was out. Not so much of a big deal now. So that's something that could potentially be a program end of life. We also used to have a basketball league at Renaud Center, and that we saw a drastic decline, and we realized pretty quickly that that was something we were going to have to phase out. We replaced that with Big Shots, which is more of a clinic style, and that's actually pretty popular for us. So that's kind of all I have. I'm happy to answer questions. Our team works really hard to put on great programs for you guys in the community, and I just wanted to shed light on some of the hard work, because it's easy to see those programs in the brochure, but it's not always so easy to see the work that they put into that on that front end to get that program running. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Just in listening to you and seeing what you do, it appears to me that it's very well organized, very well run, and there are other cities and municipalities that are not. I wonder if you could establish another revenue generating source by teaching other cities, like the city of St. Louis or the county of St. Louis, how to do this stuff. I wonder if they would pay to teach you that.
You know, I love teaching, and I was at director school. It's a 2-year commitment where I go through the national organization, and it's very mind-opening for me to see, and I do owe that a lot to Craig, the great work that the foundation that he set for us, because I sit in some of those budget classes in director school, and I'm like, this is like nothing for me. I get nuggets. In director school was great. There was a lot of good things, but especially the budget, there were lots of pieces where these high-level professionals are still trying to gain the basics. And so I do really think that that's important. I do owe a lot of that to Craig and the other managers that have supported us through that process. But I'm giving you lots of good phrases today.
I've been doing this for a while.
But yeah, thank you. I appreciate that comment.
Yeah, my experience of being sort of indirectly, directly connected to the industry is it's very cultural.
Yes.
Depending on where you go, and there's always a sweet spot you want to hit. I mean, I've always been a huge advocate to find ways to be revenue positive in as many places as you can. It's just part of my DNA. It's just the way I think. But
Yes.
I also understand that, this is a publicly funded entity, and so, you're not necessarily out there trying to run at a profit margin at a certain level that, is outside of what would be normally expected. But it's very cultural, in my experience, and so I commend you. Where I'm going with this is thank you for presenting it. It's pretty clear that we have a culture here that, that it is, priority, but maybe that's a little strong, but it's certainly noticed in terms of like it's paid attention to, and you want to try to be efficient in the way you do things. So it was really cool to hear that the majority of your programs do run, their cost recovery. Clearly, there are ones that won't be, and they shouldn't be. I mean, they're greater goods for the community, right?
Right.
We get that. But I apologize to ramble, but I feel really good to be a part of the community and be a part of a staff that thinks that way and has that mentality and has developed that culture. So thank you, Danielle, and thanks,
Well,
Greg, for setting the standard.
Thank you
And Bill,
guys for the
Appreciate
support.
it as well.
Mission accomplished. That was my goal to provide to you guys. But again, we appreciate the support, and we wanted to share just a piece of what we do. So
Thank you, Danielle. You did a good job.
thank you, Kathy.
Okay, we are near the end here. So last item here before we adjourn is for the good of the order. So in no particular order, would anybody like to comment before we adjourn tonight?
I just want to comment, welcome aboard, John. Glad you're here. I hope you enjoy our meetings.
Very enlightening so far.
Oh, yeah, a couple things. I was able to attend a tournament at Carshield Field last weekend. 14-year-old boys. They had a great time being on the main field, and the facility looked great. I know it's early in the season, so they probably haven't done a lot of work to the organization there, but that was fantastic. These little 14-year-old, like I said, guys getting to play on that big field, they were thrilled for the whole thing. And also, I was in Civic Park today, and I heard the power washer running, so I guess Alligator Creek's getting ready. We're looking forward to summer.
Yeah, John, thank you too for joining us, and excited to have some seats filled here and getting some fresh voices and opinions with the group. So, and other than that, it's like I said earlier, it's April, so it's warm weather outside right now, and we'll have a few ebbs and flows still because it's still a little early, but it's pretty much here. So I'm super excited to see the baseball, and I may try to swing up there this weekend and just sit for an hour and take it all in since I'm done. I don't have any more playing. So, anything else? No, my youngest was done. Well, he's done now when high school's over. So, okay.
Mr. Hester, if you don't mind, I do have something I want to bring up real quick. First of all, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Tom Drabell. I'm the Deputy City Administrator, and I oversee the several departments, including Recreation and Parks, which essentially means Bill and Craig get to tell me all the great things that their departments do because they do the work and do a phenomenal job. But I wanted to welcome Mr. Trummel to the board. He and I have worked together frequently over the last, 5 to 6 years, and I think he'll be a good addition. But Mrs. Wilson asked me before the meeting why I'm here tonight. I do actually have a reason. I dodged her question, but my reason for being here tonight is really to say thank you to you guys, the Parks and Parks Advisory Recreation Advisory Board. What Bill showed at the turf at Ozzie earlier is going to be a huge, huge help to our city in bringing in tourism dollars, and it wouldn't happen without the support of this board and ultimately, obviously, our city council. But I remember being in meetings with Mr. Hester, 3-4 years ago, maybe.
Wow. Yeah, at least.
Yeah, it's been a while, and this has been a long time coming. And really, the credit goes to Craig and Bill and their teams. They've done just an amazing job putting this thing together and bringing it from a dream to what you guys see now. And I want to praise them as well, and thank you guys for all your support. We're so excited to have this great feature in our community, and it's because of all you that this is happening.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for those kind words. And I'd agree on terms of the big project at Ozzie's. I mean, obviously we went through a big process and a big study, and we kind of, you had to step back and say, is this really a good decision? And, clearly the decision was made that we can do this ourselves, right? We can internalize this. And it kind of goes back to that culture, that mentality of trying to internalize things like that to where they can be more cost recovery, and we can ultimately, you can still provide the benefit for the community. So, yeah, I'm super excited about it. It makes us unique. I mean, there are some communities around us that have that, but there's not that many really. So we're pretty unique. We're already unique and stood out, but now even more. Okay, well, if nothing else, then do I have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
Wilson?
Wilson, do I have a second?
Coaster.
All right, all in favor for adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Meeting is adjourned.